All right, let's do it.
Nobody's been able to guard this man one-on-one all year.
Shai is the hardest guard in the NBA.
Steps back on the three.
He's a sniper from anywhere on the court.
Clip 1, game commentary. Nobody's been able to guard this man one-on-one all year. Shai is the hardest guard in the NBA. Steps back on the three. Clip 2, SGA interview. Yeah, I'm pretty good at basketball. Clip 3, analyst reaction. He's a sniper from anywhere on the court. You know, he's the hardest guy to cover one-on-one in the NBA. The mentorship nobody saw coming. Summer 2019, Oklahoma City blew it all up. They traded Paul George to the Clippers for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and a mountain of draft picks. Then they sent Russell Westbrook to Houston for Chris Paul. Paul was 34 years old. He'd just been shipped to a rebuilding team with no path to contention. Everyone assumed he'd ride out his contract and demand a trade by the deadline. Instead, he became a teacher. Paul spent that entire season pouring everything he knew into the 21-year-old kid who was supposed to be Oklahoma City's future. He invited SGA and other young players to his house on off nights. They'd watch film. Paul would break down pick-and-roll coverage, point out defensive tendencies, explain why a specific screen angle created a mismatch 3 passes later. He taught Shai how to control a game at walking pace, how to use the mid-range when everyone else was launching threes, how to manipulate defenders with footwork instead of athleticism, how to draw fouls. Paul told him directly, "Bro, you're 6'6". If I can do this at 6'1", you should be doing it." But the real education happened off the court. Shai has said it multiple times. Chris Paul was the first person he'd ever been around who treated being an NBA player like a discipline. How to eat, how to lift during the season, not just the summer, how to study film with purpose, how to recover properly. One morning on an off day, Paul called him, "Let's go lift." Shai was confused. He thought lifting was a summer activity. Paul explained in detail why in-season lifting was essential for staying healthy, which muscles to target, why it mattered. They became regular lifting partners. Paul also brought Lou Dort, the undrafted rookie on a 2-way contract, an iPad so he could study film properly, because Dort couldn't afford one. That's who Chris Paul was in Oklahoma City. Not a bitter veteran running out the clock. A teacher who happened to still be one of the best point guards alive. The season nobody expected. That Thunder team was supposed to tank. They finished 44-28, made the playoffs. Took the Rockets to 7 games in the first round before James Harden blocked Dort's potential series-winning shot at the buzzer. Paul finished 7th in MVP voting at 34 years old. But the leading scorer wasn't Paul, it was Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. 19 points per game in his second year, a massive jump from his rookie season. Then Paul was traded to Phoenix, and Shai was on his own. The next 2 seasons, the Thunder tanked deliberately, stockpiling picks, developing young talent. Shai was the centerpiece. He averaged 23.7 in year 3, 24.5 in year 4. His efficiency climbed every season. His mid-range game became automatic. His free throw rate exploded just like Paul taught him. But the wins weren't there. The Thunder were losing on purpose. And for a player as competitive as Shai, that's a test that breaks most people. Stars on losing teams get frustrated. They request trades, they disengage. Shai never did. He just kept getting better. Kept trusting the process Sam Presti was building, kept coming to work the way Paul taught him to. The arrival. 2023-24 season, everything turned. The Thunder went from lottery team to the #1 seed in the West. Shai averaged over 30 points per game, finished 2nd in MVP voting behind Nikola Jokic. The roster Presti built around him, Jalen Williams, Chet Holmgren, Lou Dort. The pieces started fitting together. They lost to Dallas in the second round. It stung, but the foundation was undeniable. 2024-25, they came back even better. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander won the MVP. Oklahoma City rolled through the Western Conference, beat Minnesota in the conference finals. And in the NBA Finals against Indiana, they finished the job in 7 games. The Oklahoma City Thunder won their first championship in franchise history. Shai led the league in scoring, 32.7 points per game. He became the 4th player in NBA history to win the regular season MVP, Finals MVP, and scoring title all in the same season. The others, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Michael Jordan, Shaquille O'Neal. And when Shai was given his MVP trophy during the playoffs, he looked into the crowd and saw a familiar face sitting next to his wife, Chris Paul. He'd flown in for the ceremony without telling anyone. "Caught me off guard," Shai said afterward. "I had to double take. I was like, who is that sitting with my wife? But then I saw it was Chris. I was like, all right, cool." Paul was there for the finals too, watching from courtside. 21 years in the league, 12 All-Star selections, Hall of Fame career, and he never won a ring himself. But there he was, watching the kid he mentored hold the trophy he never could. The ending Chris Paul deserved. This season, the Thunder are the defending champions. Shai is averaging elite numbers again. The team is still one of the best in basketball. Chris Paul retired in February 2026. The Clippers traded him to Toronto at the deadline. The Raptors waived him immediately. It wasn't the ending a Hall of Famer deserved. No farewell tour, no last game at home. Just a press release and a quiet exit. During All-Star Weekend, Shai was asked about it. He said he wished Paul had gotten his flowers. And then he said something that should be remembered for a long time. "Chris was special for my career. Off the court, he was the first person that I was around to really take care of their body, show me the importance of the weight room. His life was really like a regimen, and it allowed him to be successful on the court." Shai didn't just take what Paul taught him and become a great individual player. He became the kind of leader who passed it forward. The Thunder's entire culture runs on the foundation Paul built in that single season. The film study, the lifting, the obsessive attention to detail, it seeped into everything. Von Alexander, Shai's father, summed it up at the finals last summer. He said Paul taught his son how to eat, how to sleep, how to read defenses, how to draw fouls, and then he said the thing that connects all of it. We learned that from Chris Paul. The legacy. One season, that's all it was. 1 year sharing a locker room with a 34-year-old point guard who could have mailed it in and nobody would have blamed him. Instead, Paul chose to invest in a kid on a team going nowhere in a city that wasn't his. That investment changed everything, not just for Shai, for the entire Thunder organization. The culture Paul built in that single season became the foundation for a championship dynasty. The film study sessions, the weight room discipline, the obsessive attention to detail, the professional habits that separate good players from great ones. It all stayed in Oklahoma City long after Paul left. Think about what that means. Chris Paul spent 21 years chasing a championship. He played in the NBA Finals once with Phoenix in 2021 and lost to Milwaukee in 6 games. He never won the ring, never got the parade, never held the Larry O'Brien trophy. But his fingerprints are all over the Thunder's championship. The way Shai controls tempo at walking pace, the mid-range mastery, the free throw rate, the way he prepares his body, the way he studies opponents, the way he leads. That's all Chris Paul. Passed down in hotel film sessions and early morning weight room conversations during a season nobody expected to matter. The kid became the MVP, won a championship, won Finals MVP, led the league in scoring, became the 4th player in NBA history to win all 3 in the same season, built a dynasty that's still winning, and every time he's asked about it, he points back to the same person. Chris Paul warned us about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Not with words, not with a quote or a prediction. He warned us by giving him everything he had, and Shai turned that into everything Paul never got. That's the legacy, not measured in rings or trophies, measured in the player Paul created when nobody was watching, measured in the championship Paul helped build even though his name isn't on the banner. 1 season, 21 lessons, and a dynasty that started with a teacher who refused to give up even when the situation said he should.